Testing 1, 2, 3.
There we go.
Mic check, mic check.
That bit.
Shimmy crack corn and I don't care.
Jimmy Crack. All right. We've now switched over to our sports talk.
Are we live right now?
We are live.
Oh.
I was already playing, so I just didn't cancel it or anything.
What the hell? How are we going to start it off?
Yeah.
First time in 2 weeks that we've done a stream. And you're just
3.5 weeks.
3.5 weeks. We're just going
Maybe
to
more.
roll into this shit.
Damn right. While eating an almond joy.
Nasty ass. It's all about the
Don't
Reese's.
It's
all about the Reese's. It's all about Reese's and Reese's Pieces.
That's all you.
Yes. I told you. You put Reese's in front of me, it's a done game.
I know, especially now after you told me you love Kit Kats, and that was the main reason. One of the main reasons I got that bag.
I love Kit Kats. All right, so apparently we're moving away from football. We're talking about Halloween candy. We're talking about our favorites all the time. Kit Kat's my number 2 favorite. Number 1, anything Reese's. All right, I love that peanut butter chocolate combination. All right.
Well, I mean, we haven't even talked about football yet, so I figured it was a good time to just throw it in there right now. Shows how much we're out of practice.
Well, it's been almost a month since we actually streamed, so.
Right. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about mid-season predictions right now. Pretty much what we're going to do is we're going to look at the top 25 teams, see where we think they're going to come out as, and then we'll go look at the Pac-12 like we normally do and see where they're going to end up.
Apologize for not streaming for a while. Just things have been kind of busy with either work schedules or I was actually sick for 2 weeks. Not COVID, no COVID, but just has running the flu, strep throat, and all that. So back at it again. Again, we're just gonna do kind of a simpler show today. Talking about the top 25 right now and where everything is at this point. Looking at the top 5 kind of new faces that we've seen since the last time. And we have our opinions on it. I'm going to say right now, Alabama does not deserve to be in the top 3, being a one-loss team. That just goes to show how much we've said before, Alabama, no matter what they can do, they will always make their way back up into a championship contending opportunity. Is it a good program? Absolutely, but you have 4 undefeated teams in the top 5, and how is 2 of them below Alabama? Strength of schedule, you can talk about that. You can just talk about overall talent. I think that's complete bullshit. Because Michigan State just came off a big win against Michigan. Oklahoma, which has always been undefeated and always ranked in the top 2, started in the number 2 ranking. Much respect to Oklahoma now that you don't have Spencer Rattler. I think he's a joke of a player anyways. But they've been on a tear ever since Caleb Williams actually been their starting quarterback. So I think there's a lot riding high with Oklahoma and everything like that. Georgia, I think, is the team to beat this year. I think they're the team to watch out for. And I'm liking the fact that Cincinnati is at number 2, given the fact that they are a non-Power 5 conference team. And they're just completely dominating. I think they've had maybe 1 or 2 close games all year, and really liking to see them staying up there. I'm hoping the best for this Cincinnati team.
I am too. I mean, as we've said many times, we like seeing, new faces,
Absolutely.
just not even on, not just on the top 25 or in the top 25, I should say, but like in the top 10, the top 5.
Mm-hmm.
That's, after you see teams for so many years just dominate, being in that top 10, top 5 area, it's nice to see a fresh face.
Well, you're looking at the top 10 right now, and legitimately there's only 3 teams that I am really happy to see that you don't normally see, and that is Cincinnati, Michigan State, and Wake Forest. All 3 teams are undefeated right now. They have been playing outstanding football. Like I said, Cincinnati's been on a tear. I think they maybe had one or two close games. Wake Forest is kind of running the ACC now that Clemson is kind of fallen off a little bit. Michigan State coming off a big rivalry win over Michigan has a lot of hype about them. Hopefully, they can continue this on and take the Big Ten away from Ohio State. Um, and then you have your familiar faces in the top 10, Georgia, Oklahoma, Alabama, Ohio State, and Notre Dame. Michigan kind of is off and on. Oregon as well. Oregon's kind of bouncing back from their upsetting loss to Stanford. Playing good football. However, I know a lot of people will talk about they give up too many points. Look at the times that they've, given up a lot of those points, and a lot of it is garbage time touchdowns. I think we talked about that during the Colorado game. Yes, they were winning big, and then Colorado got a few more score to put it to 52-29. That's garbage time. That's really what it is. So, we'll talk about Pac-12 in a little bit and everything like that. Going into what we talked about, where we see these teams, I don't foresee the top four changing that much, only because I don't know if there is a team that's going to beat Georgia if they don't play Alabama in the regular season, nor do I see Cincinnati. Unfortunately, I do see them being the one team that may fall off. Alabama can lose like 6 games and they'll still play in the college football playoffs. Let's be real. I don't know what Saban's doing over there or what Alabama is actually doing. They're sucking some major D's or something like that to get in there. But Oklahoma, their biggest test was Texas. I don't know if anyone's really going to take them out. And Michigan State is probably going to be that team that slip in. If not, it's going to be Ohio State. I think the winner between Michigan State and Ohio State is going to make that final spot. Your thoughts?
Actually, I have some questions for you as I'm sitting here looking at the top 10 teams you see right now. Who do you predict not being in that top 10 going toward the end of the season?
Michigan is number 1. They will play Ohio State, and unfortunately, if there's one team that is Harbaugh is their bitch, it is Ohio State. He's actually never beaten Ohio State since taking over Michigan. So I see them falling off. This pains me to say this, but the only other team I can think of, there's 2 other teams. One is Notre Dame. I don't really have a lot of hype about Notre Dame. And the other one is potentially Oregon. Pac-12, you never know what could happen. I could see them potentially losing one more game, which will knock them out of the top 10. So my guess is going to be Michigan, Notre Dame, and Oregon. However, Michigan is my number 1, Oregon is my number 3, and Notre Dame is my number 2.
Okay. Everybody else, anybody else you see on this list right now from the rest of the list that you think is a big name that will not be on this list at all?
Of the whole top 25?
Of the rest of the top 15.
Top 15.
Bottom 15, excuse me.
The bottom 15.
Who do you not see on this list probably at all toward the end of the year?
That's kind of hard. The way Iowa's going right now, I wouldn't be surprised if they fall off. Iowa's dropping 2 straight games and actually getting upsetted this last week.
Yeah.
I think actually both weeks they were upsetted and everything like that. I could see Iowa. I could see Texas A&M. A lot of these other schools that are in the top 25 are in divisions where they can really run through it. It's actually amazing because you see a lot of schools, UTSA, BYU, Houston, Coastal Carolina, SMU, Louisiana, Fresno State. A lot of those guys might still be in the top 25 just because their conferences are not that great. Penn State, unfortunately, might be a team that would be knocked off again, losing the last few games in a row. I'm thinking you're going to look at more big school names than you are these smaller non-Power 5 conference teams.
Are you surprised that Penn State is actually still on this list after they're the only team on this list that have 3 losses?
Surprising, yes, but then again, if you're watching college football, a lot of teams that could potentially go on there have been falling off. As you know, like we talked, we'll talk about the Pac-12, but Arizona State, which was a top 25 ranked team all year long, unfortunately suffered an unfortunate loss to Washington State, which knocked them out of the top 25. Penn State kind of had a really good start, but ever since losing to Iowa, they've just really just been downhill from here. I give it one more week, and they could potentially. I mean, depending if they win or lose, it could. They could. I'd have to look at see who they're playing, but one more loss and they're out. Obviously, and I guess it's more of a courtesy thing that a 3-loss team is in the top 25. Because if you look at any of those other schools that are on there, I'm pretty sure one of those guys has a better record than Penn State. But given Big Ten Power 5 conference, it does give them a little bit more love than most of their schools.
Right. Yeah, I see what you're talking about. So I just asked you, who do you see falling off this list? Who in that bottom 15 do you see creeping into the top 10?
I honestly don't. I don't because, it could potentially be one of the smaller schools that get in, but I don't think so. You could potentially see Oklahoma State, Baylor, Auburn climb a little bit, Kentucky, potentially, maybe Ole Miss. I don't see a whole lot of change, whereas someone like one of those other schools are going to make into the top 10. I think if we look at scheduling for the rest of the top 10, it could potentially stay the same, maybe some adjusting of who in there. Because even the Michigan State-Ohio State game, when that happens, they're not going to fall out of the top 10. At best, they'll be at number 10.
Okay. So, would you say college championship game, Georgia versus Alabama, right now?
It's looking like it. As much as I don't want to see it, I don't think really anyone wants to see that because Georgia belongs there. Yes, they beat Clemson, and that was their only closest game was Clemson. Every game after that, they've kind of literally beat the living crap out of everyone. Alabama's going to make their way in. You could say that they're just good, but that's putting in perspective that it's setting it up this way that it doesn't want to really tarnish the legacy of Nick Saban. And though he has 2 national championship losses, both to Clemson, one with Deshaun Watson, one with Trevor Lawrence, those were flukes. And then you would instantly hear, oh, well, Saban's legacy isn't over. And then all of a sudden the next year, he wins the national championship by beating the living shit out of somebody that probably doesn't even belong there. And I'm thinking it's going to be
every other year.
Every other year. I don't want it to be Georgia, Alabama. I would love for Georgia to go, but I want to see someone different. I want to see a championship game that you don't normally see.
So that's what actually was giving me my next question. Besides just Alabama, out of these undefeated teams, so Georgia, Cincy, Oklahoma, Michigan, Michigan State, who would you want to see? Like I said, besides Alabama, I want to leave Georgia in there. But who would you, out of those teams, like to see in the?
Are we talking undefeated?
Yes.
All right. So if we were talking undefeated,
I'm not even going to include Wake Forest down there yet because I haven't.
So if we're talking just the top 5 teams, the 4 that are undefeated, fuck Alabama. So Georgia, Cincinnati, Oklahoma, Michigan State. So how it would be ranked out would be the 1 and 4 seed would play. So that as of right now, it would be Georgia, Michigan State. I don't think Michigan State's going to go. Obviously, I think Georgia's going to take it. Cincinnati, Oklahoma. This is a very tough one. I could see Cincinnati go. I would love to see Cincinnati go. I could see Cincinnati versus Georgia. Unfortunately, that's where the Cinderella story ends. Is Georgia taking the national championship? However, if I had to really think as a realistic football person, I would say it would be Georgia, Oklahoma, and that would be a really good game. But I don't know if a lot of teams outside of Alabama can really beat Georgia at this point.
Okay. KFC 007 Smile, welcome to the stream. You are a football fan? Cool. So are we. That's why we are talking about college football right now.
Yep.
All right. So, yeah, I kind of like that. I feel like, the Cincinnati, I feel like they're going to get to the big stage. But like you said, the Cinderella story is going to pretty much become reality. The clock's going to strike midnight and the spell's going to wear off kind of deal.
Well, if you look at the top four right now and say the college football playoffs started then, you're looking at Georgia and Oklahoma in one game and Cincinnati, Alabama in the other. As of right now, it doesn't pan in Cincinnati's favor who they may play in that first round. And actually, a lot of teams can look at them as the odd man out just because, again, they're not that prestigious of a college football school. But they could surprise someone. This could be the year we don't see a Power 5 team win. I would love that.
I would love that too.
But then again, Georgia's that organization that I would love to see win too. When they had, again, we saw Georgia at one point run through college football and everything like that, go to the national championship game, played Alabama to a T, and Alabama still won.
Yep. I know Georgia's actually become one of those teams where you almost think they're at that level as Alabama until they get to the championship or
until they play Alabama.
Or just when they even play Alabama, in the playoff round. Or
even in the regular season, you can be on this par level of being a top team and everything like that until you play Alabama. That's the biggest thing, and even with the one loss, Alabama's still the hierarchy of football.
All right, I think we've kind of established who we think what we're going to see there.
Yeah,
obviously we'll take a look later, maybe after the season's over, see where everybody stands out, or just even next week. We'll see where everybody is. Who knows? It could be a total shuffle next week for all we know. All right, on to Pac-12.
On to Pac-12.
All right, moving over to Pac-12. Since if you've been here before, we are from the Northwest, so we are Pac-12 fans over here. So we always like to talk about these guys as well, since Pac-12 is one of the, what would you call the Pac-12 division? One of the more one-sided division?
No, it's the most questionable division in the college football. In one-sided, no, that's SEC. That's all Alabama.
What I meant by one-sided, I mean there's only a couple teams that are always just dominant while the other ones are not as much.
5 years ago, I could say that. Now, I can't. I can't. The reason why I say that is because you look at the standings right now, and realistically speaking, it is all really messed up. Because if you look at Utah, especially Utah,
yep,
they're 5-3 overall, 4-1, which means they started out really bad, but in the Pac-12 they're dominating. Arizona State, most of their losses are coming in the Pac-12, but they started off hot. You look at Stanford. Stanford was that team that beat USC, beat Oregon, but now they've lost four games in the Pac-12 alone. It's right now, Pac-12 is the most questionable because you don't know exactly who is actually going to win. Which is nice because you don't have that dominant factor. Yeah. You can't even say Oregon's going to run away with this. Though they're the best team in the Pac-12 right now, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, for all
they lost to Stanford. They almost lost to Cal. They almost lost to UCLA. Like they're close to losing. And frankly, I mean, take the Pac-12 North for example. First of all, it's all the top four teams with winning records in the Pac-12 are the four Northwest teams. Who the hell would have thought Washington State and Oregon State would be high like that?
Right.
Who would have thought the Washington Huskies would be kind of the bottom, kind of a mid-range team. Granted, they suck.
Actually, you kind of look, all the California teams are just not doing that good this year.
They're not, and that's the funny part is too. But that's how questionable it is, because though Washington Huskies were looked at as one of the top teams that could beat Oregon in the Pac-12 North, they're not actually a good team. But yet they're not that far off from actually potentially taking that Pac-12 North. They're only one game away from Oregon.
Okay. So what would you say for Pac-12 North? Who do you see winning that conference?
I mean, my money is still on Oregon to win it, only because history has proven.
Better yet, where do you see each individual coming out as?
I think we're looking at it right now. I think we are looking at it right now. I think Oregon is going to stay on top. I think Washington State will stay in the number 2 spot there. They actually are a good team. They're learning to finish, and we'll see what this new coaching scheme will be like since the departure of their coaching staff due to COVID, due to vaccine reasons. If anyone's going to switch, I would say Washington State, Oregon State, and Oregon State is a fairly good team.
That's actually what I was going to say.
I don't see Washington dropping, only because I don't think Cal and Stanford are going to climb back from this. Again, it's pretty sad because, we've watched Husky games a lot this year, and holy cow. They suck. And theoretically,
even the game that we went to, it was
theoretically Cal and Stanford also really suck.
I know Cal, especially Stanford, has been a surprise for me this year of how
Stanford is, because I viewed them as the second best Pac-12 North team from the beginning, but now they're just not playing very well.
Right.
I would love again.
They've actually lost 3 in a row now.
Yeah. Again, see, for me, I'm a big Cougars fan and a Ducks fan, so I'm happy to see my teams on the top 2. However, the Cougs ain't winning it. Let's be real. They didn't win with Gardner Minshew. They ain't winning with the team they have now.
Yep. All right. Pac-12 South, same thing. Where do you see these teams coming out as?
This one's a little tricky. The only teams that I think will change is Arizona State and Utah. But you know what? Utah knows how to win in the Pac-12. They might not win in non-conference games, but they know how to win in the Pac-12, which is showing right now. I would want to say Arizona State, but I don't. After losing to Washington State, and actually, I think they lost by double figures. I don't see it happening. USC is not a very good team. They really struggled. UCLA could, they're such an up and down team. They start off really good, and they hit a brick wall, and they'll compete. And then I'm not even going to mention Colorado and Arizona. They're trash. They're absolutely trash. Like Arizona will not win a game this year. If they didn't beat Washington, there was no hope.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty much the same thing with that South as well. Seeing the Ute, but I would not be surprised if Arizona State does sneak in and take that.
Mm-hmm.
UCLA, I think, is going to be a long shot for them. So I see them as either second or third, and pretty much the bottom 3 years where I was going to see them go in here toward the end of the season.
I will say this: I would give UCLA another 2 years, and they could probably be dominant in the Pac-12. Chip Kelly, if they continue with Chip Kelly, that is, I think speaking the days of Oregon back in the Chip Kelly era, he was a really good coach, really offensive-minded scheme coach, which could help them in a school like UCLA, where you can get a lot of great talent come through, being a school in Los Angeles. But they have to really bite in for it and everything like that. They just have to keep believing in Chip Kelly, and that's for every team. They really have to believe in their coaching staff. Personally, Washington should stop believing in Jimmy Lake and whatever the hell they decide to run over there. Dylan Moore's get rid of this crap and move on. Like,
Well, as I said,
I know I'm bashing Washington,
okay.
but I'm just saying, like, it's pretty sad. Washington is where they're at right now for how bad they are.
Exactly. I mean, you don't, as I said since the beginning of this first few games of the season, we haven't had that dominated run game, which has been our. I mean, what's has been one of Washington's bread and butter things for many years. But yeah, I mean, now you're obviously you got a running game that's more working on, so that puts more pressure on the quarterback in Dylan, who, as we've seen, as we've just seen, he hasn't been.
Don't sugarcoat it.
I mean, yeah, he's been pretty much shit. I mean, I'm sorry, I haven't seen a guy throwing so many high balls over guys. Not even trying to give his guys a chance to catch the ball.
He overthrows on deep routes where he literally just goes 1, 2, 3, throw. He throws low or behind on slant plays, which is a very outside of a go route. It's the number one most ran route since your bread and butter, and he can't hit a fucking car if it was driving in front of him
at 5 miles an hour.
Literally, I mean, I'm not surprised they beat Arizona. I'm really surprised with the game itself. Because if you watched it, that was Arizona's game to win.
Oh, yeah. I thought Arizona was going to win that game.
But again, like, that's where I'm just saying, going back to the whole thing, is that it's all questionable because you never know who's going to win. And some of the teams that shouldn't be there, it's theoretically, the Cougs should not be where they're at.
No.
Nor should Oregon State. Literally, it should... If you were looking at the beginning of the season, what was predicted, it was going to be Oregon, Washington, Stanford, top 3. Cal 4, Oregon State, and then Washington State. Somehow, we're just deciding that California sucks.
This year.
And the Northwest wants to play like they're champions right now. Although I will still think that the Huskies will beat the Cougars because no matter what, Cougars can go undefeated and rank number 1. Washington can go 0-52. There's the fucking Apple Cup, which will always be in Washington State.
See, I know you're saying that, but I have a feeling it's going to be different this year. I think this year, Washington State actually might take it the way that the Huskies have been playing this year. So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see, but that's just my thought.
If they did it with Gardner Minshew at the hype that they were at right at that time, they did it all.
Okay, I have nothing more to add. You got anything more you'd like to add?
No, I mean, it's been enjoyed. I mean, I will say, as much as it's been such a confusing mark of where Pac-12 is this year, it's been very exciting. I think first and foremost, because I like the uncertainty of who's going to win. It makes it more exciting, and there's not dominating games. They're all close and exciting. I mean, like I said, I will always watch a Cougars game or a Ducks game over any Pac-12 game. But watching Cougars games have been fun because they're so entertaining and so fun to watch. And watching some Oregon State games, really entertaining. Watching Husky games, though their offense makes me want to fucking lose my mind and go bald, I love their defense. I'm just saying, Pac-12 football right now is exciting. May not be exciting to the college football world because some consider the Pac-12 one of the weakest division conferences right now.
Right.
But as a Pac-12 fan, I love it because you never know who's going to win, which is how football should be.
Yes.
How sports should be. You should have the uncertainty.
You just don't want to have those one or two, teams that just dominate every year.
Well, that's why the SEC is boring to me because unless if you're a game that's not Alabama versus whoever, it could be exciting. But when it's out, knowing broadcasting television, Alabama's on every fucking year, every fucking week, and we're always going to see them just dominate the game. And it's like Alabama versus Missouri. Alabama's winning 52-0, and yet we're not going to change the channel to a different game because we just want to watch Alabama dominate because the greatness of Nick Saban. Like watching USC back in the day with Pete Carroll and Reggie Bush. No matter what channel you watched, it was always on.
Right. All right. Well, then I guess that's it for us. Anybody, I'll go ahead and I'll clip this and put this up on YouTube. I think that's fixed now. I'm not sure. If not, it'll be on here for people to watch. Anyway, thank you guys all for coming out. And like I said, we know this has been a long time since we got to do this. Glad to be back doing this. And maybe later this week we will also do our NFL midseason predictions as well, if we can get that in. I guess do the thing.
Don't usually be.
I didn't know. No, actually, I knew no other way to actually say it. Just like do your thing.
Yeah, do your thing.
Do your thing.
Not do the thing. Julie B. Ball game.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.